I'm going to do when I'm president is I'm going to Clorox the Oval Office.
Welcome back. That was one of the more talked about moments in last night's debate. And the Gillibrand campaign is certainly hoping moments like that will help jumpstart a campaign heading into what is a make-or-break stretch for a number of candidates who need to qualify for the next debate. Gillibrand campaign secured 2 endorsements today, though, from very prominent New Hampshire Democrats in the hours following the second debate. But she's yet to secure enough donations or polling support to qualify for that third debate I just referenced next month. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand joins me now. Senator, good to see you. I think our friends at I think Clorox is a Procter & Gamble company. They're probably pretty happy with you today. We know it's the first thing you would do, so tell me item 2 in office.
Well, I think we need to restore our moral leadership on the world stage. And when I answered that question, I said I would not only re-engage on the global climate accords, but I would actually lead a worldwide conversation about what we can do together to actually address global climate change as the greatest threat to humanity that exists. I'd also restore our moral leadership on the world stage with regard to our allies, trying to tamp down rising conflict in the Middle East and try to restore order.
I want to talk about your back and forth with Vice President Biden. You did praise him when he came to Syracuse, when it came to women's issues. So if I am curious, why did you hit him on this op-ed if you believe the person you've been dealing with while you've been in office has been a champion for women?
So when I read that op-ed, I was deeply shocked and I was deeply offended because the language he chose to use was really disturbing. To say that making sure more middle-class families could have access to child care was going to somehow deteriorate the family, saying that, quote, parents were avoiding responsibility. I think that's a very alarming perspective. And so I really wanted to give him the opportunity on the debate stage to explain what he meant when he wrote it and tell us whether or not he still believes it.
Did you get a satisfactory answer?
No, he really avoided the question, and he wouldn't really give us a direct answer. But I think America's women have a right to know, because we need a champion in the White House for women. We need a Democratic nominee who's going to fight for national paid leave, affordable daycare, universal pre-K. And I'm running for president because I am that champion. I've put forward a really robust agenda on a family bill of rights to explain exactly how I will do that.
You have run a campaign that I feel like you've talked about this almost as a movement. And I guess I got to ask, why do you think more women in general haven't signed up? Why do you feel as if you're having to go on that debate stage going, please get me enough donations to get it? What do you believe has been the hurdle for you that you've yet to clear, that once you clear that hurdle, okay, then you'll be in the next level of conversation?
I think last night's debate was really important because I was able to establish this false choice that this national narrative is saying, that you either have to be a progressive that inspires the base or you have to be a moderate who can win back those Obama, Trump voters. I can actually do both. And so I had the ability to explain that to viewers, some of whom are seeing me for the first time. Not only can I win in those red and purple places like my first congressional district and all those counties in upstate New York, but I also pass big things like Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal, the 9/11 health bill. I can bring this country back together again. I can bring our party back together again, and I know I can govern.
I know you have said you have no regrets over the Al Franken situation. Mm-hmm. Do you believe, though, that some Democratic activists hold that against you?
I do, and I think they're wrong. Because let's be clear about Senator Franken. He had 8 credible allegations against him, 2 since he was elected, and the 8th one was a congressional staffer. And I had to make a decision about whether I was going to stay silent and continue to hold his water and carry his water, and I decided I could not. 34 other senators quickly followed me, some within minutes, many of whom are running for president. It might not seem like that today because I seem to stand alone. But I could have told every single one of them that there's no prize for someone who stands up to a powerful man who's popular and good at his day job, but we should have the courage to do it anyway. And I am disturbed that members of our party and certainly even candidates do not fully understand that this is a reflection of what kind of party we are.
I know you had the debate last night. On Tuesday, and I take it could have been tricky. Do you regret not making it to the General Hyten's confirmation hearing?
I made my views known. I got to go to the hearing where the colonel was able to tell her story and to tell about these repeated incidents of harassment and assault. And I thought her testimony was exceedingly credible. And I have very grave concerns about General Hyten. I made my views known with the committee. I asked them to postpone the vote so that we'd have more time for more hearings and more evidence. They refused. And I will ultimately vote against General Hyten.
Have we figured out due process in this? You know, it's interesting whether it was the Franken situation. His biggest beef is he feels like he didn't get due process with the ethics committee.
Yeah, that's absurd. First of all, Senator Franken is the one who made the decision not to go through his ethics committee investigation. He made the decision to resign. He made the decision not to wait till his next election. Those are his decisions. My decision was whether or not to defend him. And as a woman who has led these issues on ending sexual violence in the military, college campuses, changing how we deal with sexual harassment in Congress, these are things I've led on. And so for me to continue to stay silent and defend him in that silence was just something I was unwilling to do.
All right, but what I was trying to get at here with between Franken and General Hyten, where I think he thinks he got due process, but Colonel
Splitsville
does not believe she got due process. We haven't figured this out yet, have we? Whether it's in government or whether it's in how do we have a due process where everybody feels as it's fair?
Agreed. And so that's why I work so hard to reform the process. So in the military context, I don't think someone in the chain of command, and in this instance with General Hyten, he was technically less senior, I don't think they should be making the decision about whether a violent crime has been committed. I think a trained military prosecutor who has no skin in the game, who doesn't know the survivor or the accused, should actually make that decision. The same on college campuses. Right now, there's adjudication processes that may not even have basic training, that there's no collaboration with local law enforcement. Right. So the bill I wrote to change how we deal with it in college campuses is also about making the process better, professionalizing it, giving an opportunity for justice to be possible.
Final question is this. Can any candidate keep going if you don't make that next debate stage?
Well, I fully intend to make the next debate stage, and I'm very close to reaching my goals. And I hope your viewers will go to KirstenGillibrand.com and support me, especially if they want a champion for women in the White House, and especially if they like what we've talked about today.
Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your views. Stay safe on the campaign trail.
Thanks, Chuck. Take care.
Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.